The 2024 NFL Scouting Combine is in the rearview mirror. There are plenty of developments of interest. Today, we're going to sort out some winners and losers, get a jump on what it means for fantasy managers. I'm Bob Harris. This is the Audible YouTube channel, and it's time to go on the hot seat. Of course, footballguys.com, that's the website. Yes, we're back for the off-season version of the hot seat. You'll find me here almost every Tuesday throughout the off-season, touching on topics of interest to all fantasy investors. Hit the subscribe button, the notification bell if you haven't already done that. You could like or dislike if you so desire. As always, we do the hot seat. We have a fantastic guest to help us suss things out each week, and this week is no different. We're going to get the ball rolling with fellow football guy Mike Kashuba, with a subject matter expert, because the expert is rookies. And how are you doing, Mike?
I'm fantastic. I'm a little worried when you say expert because we're all just trying our best with this scouting thing, but I do devote an unreasonable amount of time to watching guys run in spandex, and my wife's okay with it because it's the combine.
And that's exactly why you're here. And also a big contributor to the Football Guys 2025 Football Guys Draft Guide. Version 1's out. You can download it now. Go to the website. And we'll be having version 2.0 out soon. And you'll want to get that updated player profiles, Superflex and single quarterback big board rankings included, rookie ADP, updated scouting reports after the combine. All the combine testing stats will be available to you. RAS scores, strengths, weaknesses, college stats, recruiting stars, class info, and new boosts, and all kinds of stuff to keep you on top of all the rookie affairs. So I guess, we come out of the scouting combine and, the big game to play is winners and losers, and we're going to play that game. I want to start out with maybe kind of a broader point, Mike, just in general. Is the scouting combine like a little bit of a loser, and pro days is a little bit of kind of the winners here? Or how's this playing out?
Yeah, I definitely think that's a fair way to walk away from it. You don't see Ashton Genty do anything. You don't see Ted McMillan do anything. You don't see any of the top two quarterback prospects do anything. So really, the incentive for these athletes to perform isn't there anymore. So why would they do that if they can do it at the pro day with all of their friends?
Right, and a little more comfortable. Players they're comfortable, coaches they're comfortable around. It's interesting. So you mentioned the top quarterbacks not working out. We didn't see Cam Ward, we didn't see Shedeur Sanders, and nobody expected to, but they're there working behind the scenes, interviewing with teams, all kinds of stuff going on. But one guy who really stood out to me, just as a casual observer, and I want to get your take on him, was Brady Cook, the Missouri quarterback. He's unranked in the Football Guys Guide to start out. He wowed the crowd. He looked really good. Looked a lot better than some of the other prospects out there.
He definitely looks good. The issue is that if you watch any 2024 Missouri football, he looked terrible. So I don't know where this is coming from. He's great at throwing on air. He seemed to be in rhythm where a lot of these guys were trying to figure out how they were going to cut, how deep they were going to take their turns. Cook just seemed like he was on it, and he had a great performance. The throwing portion for quarterbacks doesn't move me too much. It's good to see them do just enough that I can actually evaluate the receivers, their movement skills, their hands. But for the quarterbacks, I'm really looking at how did they measure in? What is the buzz around them? Are we seeing arm velocity and talent there? They may not actually match up with their teammates.
Well, how much did Cook's 40 time when he ran a 4.59 or something? He had a great vertical leap. I mean, some of the other tests he really excelled in as well. And then with the accurate passes, was it him being super accurate, or maybe some other players not being as accurate?
Oh, man. I mean, I got to look ahead at your notes. Will Howard could not hit the broadside of a barn. So, that
foreshadowing.
Quinn Ewers, it seems like maybe he's still recovering from his oblique injury. Kyle McCord was able to paint all over the field, but doesn't have that super strong arm. So it's easy to stand out when you're with those guys. I think silent winner, Jackson Dart, did just enough that he's still in that QB3, QB2 conversation. The buzz around him is growing, and he was just in Lance Erline's first round mock draft.
Yeah, I saw that, and I think that's a reasonable assessment, right? Like if you're looking for another winner, maybe he's like the non-loser.
Yes,
almost
winner by default.
Right, because you mentioned Will Howard was horrible. Looked like he couldn't hit the broadside of a bar. Again, not being the draft expert in this group, Mike, you are, but what did you see of him? And just looking back at the tape on the season, what kind of expectations should we have going into the draft and when he hits his next stop?
I think we saw in the combine that Will Howard needs a little bit of time to marinate in a system and figure out what's going on. At Ohio State this year, he started off shaky. He wasn't really commanding the offense. He was missing some open throws. He's thrown to some of the best receivers in the country, still wasn't able to hit them. And as the season went on, you saw him make more difficult throws, paint all over the field, able to throw in rhythm, you saw him grow in that role. And I think we just saw today what an unexpected Will Howard start would look like if he was a backup for your team and just got
Right.
thrown in week 3. But I think we saw in the college football playoff what a Will Howard year 2 expects to be the starter could look like if he ends up being in a bridge type situation or a team doesn't have any other options.
Right. I talked to our colleague Matt Waldman an awful lot. He's also watches a lot of film and checks these
Yep.
rookies out. And I think if he had his way, every rookie quarterback would sit for some period of time. I think that's obviously unrealistic. The NFL teams seem to agree with that. What does Mike Kashuba think?
I think Mike Kashuba, the fan, I want to watch these guys play because I want to see immediately like, oh, he's crushing it. I was right. This is great. But you can't truly evaluate these rookie quarterbacks until year 3, year 4, maybe even year 5. You're seeing these bounce backs from Geno, Baker, Sam Darnold. I guess we can never truly know. So I think you should let them sit and learn, and maybe not a full season, but at least long enough that they can learn the playbook, understand where their teammates are, and get used to NFL speed.
Like, not everyone's expecting a Jaden Daniels or a Bo Nix, but they exist, and teams see that, and it's hard for them to resist. So you like Jackson Dart? Are there any of the quarterbacks we haven't discussed here that maybe stood out or fell short in your expectations?
I think Kyle McCord should get a little bit more credit. I think his tape at Syracuse, you can't get the Ohio State stink out of your mouth from 2023, but he took a big step forward. He did enough at the combine that he could be a game manager in an emergency situation, and I think that's really good for Kyle McCord.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Not super high in the rankings, quarterback 8, so draftable. What did you think about Jalen Milroe?
Oh man, he's a roller coaster, and I love it. Hand came in magically bigger, so he hit that 9-inch threshold. Love to see that. Lots of stretching. He's clearly a supreme athlete. He clearly can throw it as far as he wants to. You can see some of the erraticism with him. But maybe because the hands are small, he doesn't have great form. Maybe because it's slipping out of his tiny baby hands like Joe Burrow used to joke. But I think he's just such a quick twitch athlete that he just needs to dial it back a little bit. I see the tools. I see the vision. He needs to sit at least a year, maybe 2.
Did the Cleveland Browns see the vision? No, maybe not. They have some familiarity with their new offensive coordinator there. We'll see. We'll step up to the running back position where, like, maybe the winner of the whole combine. Well, one of the top winners of the whole combine, Bashal Tutin of Virginia Tech. He's our running back 20 in the draft in the rookie guide. Like, every number, fastest 40, 4.32. That gets my attention because I like that. But all the 40.5 vertical leap, 10 foot 10-inch broad jump. I mean, he rocked the world. Talk a little bit about how much can or should a player move up anybody's ranks? Like teams have done all their scouting. Is this something that can move the needle for him?
I think this is something that is verifying what we already expected with Tutin. So I came into this. I'm a Virginia Tech fan. I know that Tutin was an all-star athlete in high school. He was a track star. He was supposed to go out there and test really well. He gets, to Virginia Tech. He crushes it, breaks all these tackles, and now he becomes the combine winner. You can move him within a tier. So if you already had him, there's a gigantic tier from running back 6 or 7-ish all the way up to 15 to 18, depending on how you want to rank them. That's how deep this class is. I think Tutin put himself firmly towards the top of that tier rather than towards the bottom. And we're talking about day 3 draft capital. He could sneak into the back end of day 2 now.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. So like, I think we look at all these running backs. I can remember last year, all the talk about the Kamani Vidals of the world and, these day 3 guys that we all thought were going to have big roles. Doesn't happen for everybody. And maybe it doesn't happen for Tutin either. I think we're all expecting that, though, for Amari Hampton. And he had a pretty solid showing. I kind of count him as a winner. How do you feel about him?
Yep, I have loved Amari Hampton. I had him RB2 in the class. He came out there and he tested better than Jonathan Taylor did. Very casual from relative athletic score. Look, supreme athlete, thumper with the ball in his hands. He can catch. He looked fluid in the drills. I think some people said that he looked a little clunky. I didn't see that. Maybe I just need to get my eyes checked. I think that he walked away with a very, very good score, and now the first round buzz is very real.
All right, let's talk. Tucson native, Arizona Wildcat, Arizona State guys, fork them. But we had a running back who maybe was Cam Skatebo a loser in this?
I don't know if he was directly a loser because he didn't test very well. He tested extremely well for a short, stocky white guy. He's jumping 39 inches in the air. All of the explosives are off the charts. But because he didn't run, he could become a forgotten name in this process. I think he could maybe fall out of the hearts and minds of some draft fans. He's going to test at his pro day, and he's still going to be just fine.
I hope that's the case. And again, maybe had a little bit of an injury issue. Any other running backs that that you're super keen on that maybe are a little bit off the radar, or you felt like had solid showings at the combine?
I think RJ Harvey and DJ Giddens confirmed what we were expecting there. These are big, strong, fast, explosive rushers, and they tested off the charts. Judkins, everyone saw him in the college football playoff get caught from behind, and they were worried about his long speed. Maybe that's because he had already had 15 carries that game and he was a little tired. So Judkins was able to put some great stuff on the field on Saturday. So now we can expect him to pop up in everybody's rankings.
Everyone thinks this is a very deep running back class. Looking at the 40 times, many guys under the 4 or 5 threshold, which is very exciting for all of us. And so how many of these guys do you think are legitimate contributors as rookies? How many do you see?
So I'm going to give the always cop-out answer. It depends on landing spot. I could see each of the top 5 guys. So we're talking about Genty, Hampton, Henderson, Judkins, and then I still believe in Caleb Johnson. And then I think from that next tier, it goes, again, it's a super deep class all the way from RB6 to somewhere between 15 and 18. Let's say about a third of those have valuable roles in some way, either as a direct handcuff or as a 1B in an offense. Right. So I think 5 that we can lock in and say this is an RB1 or RB2 for fantasy. I think they are being underdrafted right now. The 2017 class had 4 go in the top 10 for fantasy by the end of the year.
Yeah,
I think we see that number. I think we see that number get beat this year.
Very good. I like that. I'll tell you what, on Underdog, if you're out there in the early best ball rooms, people are truly believing that because you're seeing all the names that you tossed out there going very early in drafts already. Let's move on to the wide receiver position where, the tales of the 2 cities here, 2 Texas Longhorns was pretty obvious, the winner and loser. Matthew Golden, our wide receiver 3 and the rookie guide. Very impressive. Fastest 40 times, 4.29. His teammate, Isaiah Bond, it wasn't horrible, but the advertising is what did him in, right? Promised he would have set the record, and it ended up not getting there. He did get the 4.39 in, but your take on those 2 players, wide receiver 7 for Isaiah Bond on the rookie draft guide.
Yep, I think Isaiah Bond, it's tough because if he had just gone out there and run a 4.39, we'd all be like, wow, that was a great combine. What a great showing.
Right.
But that lack of understanding of what he's actually going to run maybe shows a lack of maturity. You can try and peel back that onion a little bit, or it's just a college kid trying to have fun, trying to run fast. So I think he is a loser because of the negative publicity he's receiving, but he still tested, hit all of the thresholds. We feel good about Bond.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too. I think there are people out there who think Emeka Egbuka maybe, if not a loser, maybe didn't gain any ground or maybe lost a little ground. Is that a way to look at it?
He's a power slot that we're excited about. I think he can play all over the field, but I think his best role is at a power slot. Look, he's not flying up draft boards, but I think he should still be in round 1 consideration. I think he's a very polished route runner. I think he brings a lot to an NFL team and a fantasy team that we're looking for. But Matthew Golden ran really fast, so now he's a loser, I guess.
I guess there's somebody's going to get maybe a little value on some of these players. Ted McMillan, anything, of interest, for him?
Drake London didn't do the combine, didn't test at his pro day, went top 10. Ted McMillan isn't at the combine, doesn't say he's going to do anything at his pro day. We'll see how it goes.
Well, just what's your opinion of him? He is, of course, our wide receiver 1, pretty much universally the wide receiver 1, the big bodied player. What kind of expectations do you have for him at the next level?
I think he goes in, he sits in, he is a team's wide receiver 1. He is not at the same level that Mike Evans is, but he could be in the Mike Evans role, the Drake London role. Insert tall receiver that's a jump ball catch guy there. I think he is a little more fluid than Drake London after the catch. So I think people aren't giving him enough credit. He has a nasty stiff arm and he has giant pterodactyl wingspan and he likes to use it well. So I could see him being, maybe not immediately as a rookie, being a top 5, top 10 contributor, but over time, looking at the year 2, year 3 breakout, I'm excited for him.
You talk about some of these big slot receivers. Anybody else stand out? Because I think the slot is where we get excited,
Yeah.
and some of the players that we see having some super productive seasons as pros are some of these big slot players. Anyone else appeal to you in that regard from this class?
Yep. I think Jalen Noel doesn't get enough credit. His dad put out a very funny tweet. He said, "Sorry about the height, buddy. Married for love." But he tested super fast, jumped really high, was fairly productive in an Iowa State offense where that quarterback should have thrown for 8,000 yards. I don't know how he didn't. He was just missing Higgins and Knoll. So I think he's one of those guys you can put him on the inside and just let him work his magic.
Anyone else catch your eye? Maybe make an impression on you that you didn't expect?
Yep. Tyquan Thornton's brother made me Google who he was and
Oh no.
verify his yards per reception. We're talking about a guy, so I think it's Dante Thornton. Is that
Yes.
right? Yep. He ended up with 25 yards per reception at Tennessee this last year.
Wow.
It was only on 20 something catches, but
right. It's always the narrow sample size. And so anything that you see over the combine surprise you at the wide receiver position?
I think the big surprise was Matthew Golden running as fast as he did. I watch a lot of Texas games. My brother-in-law is a huge Texas fan. And I thought Isaiah Bond was straight line faster. Matthew Golden's play speed isn't always that long speed aggressive, but his short burst is always really exciting. So it was interesting to me to see them flipped.
All right. And so the big topic, I don't think, there's no combine news here, but Travis Hunter is the big topic of interest for fantasy managers. What are we doing with him? How are we treating him at Football Guys? And how are you treating him as you head into drafts?
Yes, I am treating him as if he is the player that I think is extremely talented, and I don't want to bet against the talented player. So once you get through, you're excited about Ashton Genty, you're excited about Ted McMillan. Once you get to that range where you're no longer, oh, I'm really excited about this prospect, take the swing on Travis Hunter. I would rather lose betting on a player that I think is good, that gets a different role than I expect, than betting on a player that I think is bad, and then they end up being bad, and then I feel silly. So I think, sorry.
Go ahead.
So I think he may start as a full-time corner, part-time receiver. He may start as a full-time receiver, part-time corner. I think as long as his body can hold up to it, which he's shown that he can at the college level, why would an NFL team ever take him off the field? He's going to start in that part-time role on whichever side. And by the end of the season, they're going to say, I got to get this guy out there. I got to get the ball in his hands. I got to get him to lock down this guy. This is an opportunity where we can see the Shohei Ohtani of football, and I'm super excited for it.
Right. I feel like, we're all the IDP players are out there going, yes, I need this cornerback who will also guard me points. I think that might get divided up in ways you're not expecting people. So be careful of that. So it is fascinating to see a player get this kind of two-way buzz, and we'll see where he goes and what the team thinks of him. I think if I was him, I'd be wanting to make wide receiver money. I'm guessing teams would be wanting to pay quarterback money. Let's look at the tight ends. Mike, and by the way, again, go download the Football Guys Draft Guide version 1.0, available completely free. Just go to the website, hit it immediately, see the big link in the upper left-hand corner of the site, and just get on that. Sign up for the free email updates as well. We'll crank those up after the draft back up to daily, but you'll get a couple a week with really great information and all kinds of pertinent links. And version 2.0 will be out, I think it's about a week plus from now. The 12th of March, we'll have all that. And I know you're working on that now as we speak, Mike, and I've drug you away from it. Tight ends. I think everyone kind of viewed the big winner as Terrence Ferguson. Did you see it the same way? He's our tight end 7.
Yep, I think Terrence Ferguson, he was the biggest mover for me. We saw a lot of the things you expect to see, big, strong, fast. But it's one thing to say, oh, I see this on tape. It's another to see him tested at the combine. So that kind of confirmed some of those things. And I had to bump him up while some other guys didn't test as well and confirmed some concerns that I had.
Yeah, I think Harold Fannin Jr., our tight end 2, is kind of considered a loser. Where do you stand on him? Is he really a loser, or is this just like an expectations game? We would have liked to see more.
So I feel bad because he's tight end 2, and I am actually the lowest among the Football Guys. So if you guys want to check out the individual rankings, those are all the way at the bottom of the rookie guide. Tag me, roast me. Can't wait to hear him. I had Harold Fannin Jr. as tight end 5 before the combine, and I'm moving him down. You can't be small. You can't be slow. You can't be a bad blocker. And I think all of those things are true with him. His short and intermediate burst is exceptional. I think if they move him to a fullback or an H-back type role, we could see some exciting things, but it would be almost like Kyle Juszczyk and not like Isaiah Likely.
Right. I feel like everyone knows he's not a great blocker and that maybe he should have been better in the receiving drills than he was. But
Yep.
where another guy really stood out, I thought, like, again, just kind of looking at the surface, you watch that gauntlet drill, and man, you see someone who's super smooth and looks
Yes.
like they just belong. And you see Mason Taylor, and you're going,
Yep.
yeah, that guy's a football player.
Yeah. I mean, son of Jason Taylor. He's grown
That
up
helps.
around football. He looks like a football player. He is a football player. He's a big riser. I think we saw some of the soft hands and things like that on tape. We didn't see exceptional speed, but he tested pretty well, and I'm excited to see where he ends up.
Yeah, I am as well. And Gutterhelm obviously had some struggles. Let's talk about the injury and talk about what you saw from him.
Yep. So on the false start for the 40-yard dash, he ended up rolling his ankle. It was a pretty nasty ankle sprain. It's nice this year. Normally they just say, hey, this guy was sick. Hey, this guy was hurt. Gunnar was nice and sent Ian Rappaport a picture of his ankle to confirm that it was hurt. So it's a nice touch.
Very kind.
Uh,
You got to admire that.
I love the grit of him testing through it, but he needs to fire whoever told him to keep going. Like, you are hurt. You are putting out bad numbers. Maybe some team is going to fall in love with that story, but other teams are just going to take the raw numbers, sort them by what they are. You don't meet the threshold, you're off the board.
I don't want to talk about some players maybe that you mentioned there are players obviously that you are higher and lower on than the field. Let's go back to the quarterback position and talk about a quarterback or maybe a couple players that you're not as sold on as everybody else and maybe some that you're a little higher on.
Yep. So at the quarterback position, I'll pull up the rookie guide here in a second. I know that I had Shadur Sanders as QB3. I think that just comes from, I don't think the ceiling for fantasy football is going to be there. So this was an early assumption that they would both get first round draft capital. I don't know what to believe with Jackson Dart anymore, so I keep flip flopping them. But there's a world where Jackson Dart becomes this big, strong armed, kind of mobile quarterback that gives you a tight end or quarterback 12 to 14 finish. Unless Shadur Sanders ends up in the perfect situation, I really need him to air it out because I don't think he breaks anything on the ground. I think he takes too many sacks. I'm just worried about how that is going to go to the next level.
Right. And you have Jackson Dart at number 2, Shadur Sanders at number 3. Cam Moore seems like locked in as pretty much the universal number 1.
Yep.
Who do you see being the best fit for him?
Oh, man. I actually sneakily think it's still the Titans. So with the Titans, they have Calvin Ridley already. They have a good running back duo. I think Chigo Okonkwo is kind of slept on. They can sign a whole bunch of money on their offensive line and maybe fix some of that. I think that is the kind of team that if they go all in on offense this year, they can put out a serviceable product. I'm worried that he falls to the Browns. The Giants would be fun for a little bit, but I think he would get killed over there. There's just a couple of options at the top. I like the Titans, but I don't hate anybody that says that otherwise.
Yeah, I look at your running back rankings. I don't see any major differences. I do see your Keenan Caleb Johnson. What's going to change for you after the combine in your rankings?
Yep. So biggest moves for me, I switched Judkins and Johnson. I just think that is still one tier to me. So it's very easy for people to just look at the line and go, oh, you have RB4, RB5. That means you must hate RB5 and love RB4. Like right. 2 to 5 is a tier. 6 to it's weirdly deep this year. I'm going to say 18 now, but we'll see how my final grades end up coming out. Is a whole nother tier. We want to see, other biggest mover, Virginia Tech fan, Virginia Tech alumni. I tried not to let that bias get into it. Now that he has tested and I can stand on that, he's bumping up.
Yeah, Bashal Tootin again, the big winner, I think, of the combine. Eamon Worry, notwithstanding the hugely athletic safety who came out and ran circles around everyone as well. But Tootin has got to be the guy that's going to move wide quite a bit. Who do you have at wide receiver that fits a similar bill for you? Who's moving up or down?
I ended up moving Noel up quite a bit, and then I did have to knock Tez Johnson. I want to root for him. I want to believe in him, but you cannot weigh in at 154 pounds and just expect to get day 2 draft capital. So if he ends up going day 3 to a good situation, I could end up going back in on him, but he's going to need a very specific team fit for me. And there's not a lot of those floating around for a 154-pound receiver.
Any thoughts about swapping out Ibuka and Golden, who are, again, 4 and 5? We're splitting hairs here.
Yeah.
You have Luther Burden. I think Luther Burden's got to universally at number 2. Didn't do anything, nothing distinguishing from the weekend for him. So no changes there.
Nope. Still Burden at 2. I'm fighting with the Hunter decision at 3. So I
Right.
want to bet on the talent. I think if he was 100% a wide receiver, he'd be talked about as the wide receiver 1 or in discussions there. But because of the unknown, keeping him at 3. And Egbuka and Golden, take your pick. Do you want the better route runner? Do you want the better tester? Do you want the high flyer? Do you want the slot guy?
To your credit, you were already down on Isaiah Bond. You knew what he was all about. You knew he
Yep.
couldn't live up to his word. I'm just being a little abusive here, but I
Yep.
mean that's going to be the thing everyone remembers. I just wanted to ask you about a receiver that intrigued me as I read through
Mm-hmm.
the football guys rookie draft guy, Jaden Higgins. You have him at number
Yep.
10. Give us a little thumbnail sketch of him.
Yep. Super big, super fast, but the speed didn't always show up on tape. There are some plays where he looks like he's a giant guy with amazing footwork and he's able to cross step over people and get free releases from defenders. And then there's other times where he just looks like he's running around out there and doesn't know where he's going. So I think that at his best, at his peak, Jaden Higgins could be the number 1 receiver for an offense. I think his median outcome is that he is the 2 in terms of targets, but ends up being looking like the 1 because he's the big, tall guy out there.
Right. He intrigues me an awful lot for all those reasons. At tight end, everyone has Tyler Warren. I think, pretty universally is the tight end one. Colston Loveland, variously, you have him at 2, and that's where he stays. Anyone else? Gutter Helm, you had at 3. Elijah Arroyo, Fannin at 5. Taylor at 6. Anybody moving, or Terrence Ferguson at 9 that we discussed?
Yep.
Any of these players making moves for you?
So on this initial watch through, I tried to get through 2 to 3 games for each player. Now that I've dove in a little bit deeper, I wasn't giving Terrence Ferguson or Aronde Gadsden enough credit, so they are both moving up pretty substantially. And then Harold Fannin Jr. is going to fall down for me. I'm already the lowest on him. I will fight this fight. I will say that I won't draft him in my fantasy drafts, but I'm wishing nothing but the best.
Aronde Gaston too. Yes, I had his father on many a team back in the day, the Miami Dolphins wide receiver. So great stuff there. All right, Mike. So we'll be working on the draft guide over the course of the next week. Again, we'll have all kinds of additional info in there. If you've already downloaded version 1.0, you don't want to miss out on version 2.0. And of course, version 3.0 will be out as well later on. So make sure you check it all out. March 12th is release date for that. Don't miss it. I'll be back here next week with another On the Hot Seat. I'm guessing there will be free agent talk. T. Higgins gets franchised today, so kind of off the board. Chris Godwin rising up the ranks. It's not like a huge big name class this year, but we're going to dive into it a little bit, and we'll kind of do that right on the eve of the signing period. We'll have some information from the beginning of the tampering period, which will be next Monday, the 10th. So stay tuned for that. Mike, thanks a lot for joining us again. If you don't already, and you should be, you can follow Mike on the X device. Give us the feed. Give us the address there, Mike.
Yep, it's at FF Mike Cash. So Mike Cash with a K for the last name.
That's all you need to know. I'm at Football Diehard as always. Catch my fantasy notebook every week. You'll catch it in the email on Sundays, and check out Football Guys, and be sure you download the draft guide, the rookie draft guide, version 1.0 available right now, version 2.0 on the way. And that's it for us. Thanks, Mike.